All right. Well, thank you so much for letting me come and present to you today. I'd like to start, and I just have a couple of quick questions for you, but I don't want you to answer them out loud. Just think in your head. So, how many of you feel satisfied when you're at work? How many of you feel you have a friend or a colleague when you come to work? Okay, so the Gallup organization, a research based company, has found that people with a good friend in the workplace are more likely to be satisfied with their jobs. And so today I want to talk about how to build stronger relationships in the workplace. So let's first start with why it's important to have a good relationship in your workplace. So there's four things that I want to talk about. First, having good relationships increases productivity, it increases employee loyalty, it also helps with reducing conflict, and it also improves teamwork. So let's start with productivity. So strong relationships with colleagues creates a very pleasant work environment, which also increases employee motivation. So this increases productivity, which leads to increased profits for the business. So it's better overall, wouldn't you agree? Yeah? Okay, so then next we have employee loyalty. So this productivity that we just talked about and a good work environment encourages employees to be loyal. And this loyalty actually improves employee retention, and that decreases the cost of hiring and training. So it's a win-win for everyone. Next, we have conflict reduction, and hopefully none of your employees are doing what these ladies are doing right now. But one more reason to have better work relations is that there's a lot less conflict, and this allows employees to concentrate on their tasks and are even more productive. Then next, we have improved teamwork. And when people get to know each other really well, they're a lot more likely to work well together. And I think that's really important, especially with your guys' work environment. You have a small number of employees, and so it's really important to build those relationships because you're around each other so much. And then next, I want to talk about um, what actually makes a healthy relationship. So we went over why it's important to have those healthy relationships, but let's talk about what actually makes up a healthy relationship. So I've got 5 things here. The first is trust, then mutual respect, mindfulness. You need to welcome diversity and have open communication. So let's start with trust, which I think is one of the most important aspects you can have in relationships. And this is important in any relationship, and not just at work. But it's very important at work as well. And trust will form bonds that help your team communicate better and trust each other. And hopefully, none of you are doing any of this at work, but it's really important to be able to trust your teammates and who you work with. Next, we have mutual respect. And as you respect your coworkers and your employees, you'll be able to value their input and ideas, and vice versa. And this makes it much easier to create solutions at work. Next, we have mindfulness. And to me, mindfulness pretty much means taking responsibility for your own words and actions. So when you're mindful, you're very careful about what you say and how you act so you don't affect others negatively. Um, there's just so many opportunities in the everyday workplace for you to say or do something that may rub the other person wrong. So you just have to be very mindful and aware of your actions and what you're doing. Next, you'll want to welcome diversity. So accepting diverse people and opinions. I think one really important thing here is accepting diverse opinions. So lots of times we think that our opinion is the only way to go about something. And when we are welcoming of new ideas and opinions, you're able to get a lot more done and learn new ways to solve problems. And so I want to encourage you guys to really take time to consider your colleagues' differing opinions. So the next is having open communication. So we're constantly communicating throughout the day, whether it's through emails, text, or face-to-face encounters. And the better and more often we're able to communicate, the better our relationships will be. So I encourage you not only to have good face-to-face relationships, but also through your email and text. Obviously, you don't want to only use those because you're able to build better relationships when you're face-to-face. But it's also important to be able to respond quickly to emails or texts and create this open communication. So next, now that we know what actually makes up a healthy relationship, we can talk about how to do that. So these are specific things that you can do to create better relationships in the office. So I have a list here. We'll go over each individually, but I'll quickly go through so you can be thinking about them. So speak positively, be supportive, involve others, write thank you notes, ask questions, do outside activities, be social, and manage your boundaries. So let's start with speaking positively. So you're going to want to speak positively about all the people you work with, and especially your boss, which seems pretty obvious. But you want to give quality feedback about others. And it's a really good habit to get into, not only speaking quality, but also giving quality feedback, because a lot of the times, eventually, the information gets shared and makes its way back to the person that's being discussed. And so when you're positive about people, people will be more likely to enjoy what you're saying, and you'll never have it come back and bite you in the butt if you had talked negatively about one person and they somehow found out. You'll never have to worry about that. So it's better just to speak positively, even if you have negative thoughts. Just keep it to yourself. The next is be supportive and involve others. So support other people's work. You can do this by asking how you can get involved, how you can help them out. When you work directly with coworkers, your connection is strengthened as you help them meet their goals. So that's really important, to offer help and be supportive. Actually, along with that also, you can ask them to be involved in your projects and activities. So if you ask for help, the more people can help you, the better you can get to know them. It gives you more opportunities for that one-on-one relationship. Next, it sounds silly, but writing personal thank you notes, or even, emailing or leaving a voicemail, that makes a big difference. It will show that you've noticed their good work, but you also are showing that you care about them. You can send them to coworkers at all different levels of hierarchy. So you can send them to your boss or someone who works under you, even say like an intern. That's really good to build your relationships. Next, one important thing is to ask questions. So I'm talking about asking personal questions about the people that you work with. It's a really good way to initiate conversations, and as you ask those questions, make sure you take the time to listen. Because as you listen and they share, you can both feel closer to each other, and then after listening, you can share something about yourself, so there's more of a two-way communication to establish a bond. So then, after asking those questions, you're going to want to continue to interact after getting to know them. You don't just want to leave it alone and not talk to them anymore. Next is doing outside activities with your coworkers. So after asking those questions, lots of times you'll figure out that there's a lot of things you have in common and different interests. So try and find those interests and go out to lunch or do things in the evenings or weekends that you enjoy. And if you're married, visit with the couples to make more of a connection at work and build those bonds. Next, this one seems pretty obvious, but be social at social events. Don't just go and sit there. Don't wait for someone else to come and introduce themselves. It's important for you to introduce yourselves to people that you don't know as well or don't recognize. And as you do that, those people that you're talking to will be a lot more inclined to let their guard down and actually get to know you. And then one thing to remember with all of these tips is to make sure that you manage your boundaries. So we all want to have friends at work, but if you are spending too much time with that, it can start to impact your job and monopolize our time. And so you're going to want to make sure that you're assertive about your boundaries and that you're aware of how much time you can spend devoting to social interactions. So next, I know that this happens in a lot of work environments. There are difficult relationships that you're going to have to work harder at than others. So sometimes you may not like them and feel like you can't relate to them at all, but you need to make sure to have a professional relationship with them. And so I have 3 main, pretty simple things you can do. Making the first move to improve the relationship is important because it'll show that you're trying, and it'll show the other person that you want to get to know them and improve the relationship. So engage in genuine conversation or invite them to lunch. It's pretty simple. Get to know them better and find common ground. You can do this through the things that I just went through. For example, asking questions and getting to know them, finding things you do have in common. And then next, try not to be too guarded. And as you ask questions about their background and interests, it'll help you let your guard down and show them that you're interested, and they will reciprocate, hopefully. So I have a personal experience with this. I used to work, one of my first jobs was at a dry cleaners, and I worked with this other woman who was very different than me, and I had a really hard time getting to know her. And she was a little bit rude and standoffish and wouldn't really talk to me unless she had something negative to say. So what I did is I just started asking her questions about her life. When she would be doing something on her phone and I could hear it, I would ask her like about the video she was watching, or I would ask her what her plans were for the night, and I would just kind of get to know her. And by the end of our working together, I actually felt very comfortable around her, and it wasn't so hard anymore. Let me show you a quick video. Hopefully you guys are familiar with The Office, but this is an example of what not to do.
Why are you the way that you are? Honestly, every time I try to do something fun.
Okay, it's not working. Give me just 1 second to restart that. But so this is an example of how not to interact with colleagues or employees.
Why are you the way that you are? Honestly, every time I try to do something fun or exciting, you make it not that way. I hate so much about the things that you choose to be.
Okay, so obviously that's really bad, so don't be a Michael Scott. I want you to make an effort to create real relationships at work. Thank you.